There's a lot of people who make mental health content and they're not people who suffer from it. So
over 17 million U.S. Americans live with depression and/or are diagnosed with it.
A new study in partnership with CNN, which found that the vast majority of people in the country think the U.S. is experiencing a severe mental health crisis.
Do you guys think that the shootings that we've been seeing has to do with mental health, or do you think it's just like people are criminals and they're crazy? Because I feel like it's a component of a lot of different things.
Pennsylvania Senator John Fetterman checked himself into Walter Reed Medical Center to receive treatment for clinical depression.
In a statement, his chief of staff said that while the senator has experienced depression throughout his life, it only became severe in recent weeks.
There's a lot of people who make mental health content and they're not people who suffer from it. So part of me kind of hates that. So I feel the need to state that.
And in today's video, we take a look into this new epidemic that's becoming increasingly
Look
more
how high
widespread
the US
across
is.
the United States.
Jeez.
Before moving on,
welcome back to the channel. One thing I promised myself this year was that I was going to create mental health content that was focused on mental health, mental illness, and really just the things that so many of us say, but really we brush under the rug, and I'm one of them. I can admit that I am absolutely one of them. So hopefully I can get this video out before I leave, but I don't know. Either way, I'll edit it and try to get it up as soon as I can. Now, this video is called Mental Health Crisis Spreading Across America as People Are in Deep Trouble. So let's hop in here. It's only 14 minutes. If you do like content like this and you want to see more of this centralized content focused on mental health and those that are struggling with things that are invisible, if you will, definitely don't forget to like and subscribe. I just got back from eating and I feel so good because I was starving and I just was like, I need to get full. You know what I mean? Like, you know how food will make you like angry? What do they call it? Hangry? I was literally hangry. So now that I'm done eating and I have my good old H2O, we are ready to hop in here. So I believe I watched a part of this last night, but I passed out. I don't know if it was like 5 minutes into it or 10 minutes into it, but either way, let's go ahead and see what's going on. And again, if you are one of those that are struggling with some of these situations as well as symptoms, don't forget to let us know. Like, comment down below. We obviously want to do our best to support each other collectively as much as we can. Lord knows I am very much somebody who doesn't like help. I don't want anyone to help me. So if that's you, I get it, and you're not alone, okay? You're not. The way I can't stand when people be trying to help me, I'm like, listen, let me go through this terrible lesson alone. Alone. Okay,
it's no secret
that was a little triggering. I was really half asleep when I watched this, huh?
that the past few years have had a devastating effect on people's mental health. But what America is facing today is an unprecedented mental health crisis that is affecting large swathes of our population, including our children. For many, the pandemic was the trigger. Others have seen their finances being turned upside down by recent stock market volatility. Hey. Millions have lost their jobs, and current economic...
If you were laid off, so was I. It's okay, okay? We will prevail.
Economic problems have only added to the pressure. Meanwhile, young Americans have been mentally struggling at rates we've never seen before. And social media is a big contributor to that.
You're telling me I had to literally get off of social media. Like, I'm in a place right now where it's just like, I just need to focus on me and what I want to do, and that's it. I can't even really be consumed in other people's stuff right now because I don't know, I feel like I could feel other people's energies way more than I could ever feel before, and it's just like I need to just centralize myself right now.
According to a new study,
because
an overwhelming majority of
too much going on.
Americans are living with mental and emotional distress right now.
And for those that are new here, I do have PTSD, anxiety, insomnia, and bipolar 1. So I was diagnosed with these diagnoses in 2018. So I like to state that just because I find there's a lot of people who make mental health content and they're not people who suffer from it. So part of me kind of hates that. So I feel the need to state that.
And in today's video, we take a look into this new epidemic that's becoming increasingly more
widespread
the US
is
across the United States.
Jeez.
Before moving on, We kindly ask you to support our work with a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe. The Kaiser Family Foundation just published a new study in partnership with CNN, which found that the vast majority of people in the country think the U.S. is experiencing a severe mental health crisis.
Do you guys think that the shootings that we've been seeing has to do with mental health, or do you think it's just like people are criminals and they're crazy? Because I feel like it's a component of a lot of different things.
9 out of 10 adults, or 90%, said that mental health issues in the U.S. are at crisis levels rather than being merely a problem, with high rates of mental health issues and mental illnesses being reported among children, teenagers, and adults. The study on
Loneliness is at 25%, 62%, 11%. Interesting. I feel like I put myself like in situations to be lonely though. Like I'd rather be lonely than get hurt. So it's like if I need to be alone, then I'd rather do that than like put faith into somebody and assume that they're never going to hurt me, because it's just, it sounds like a fairy tale at this point. I'm like, every human I come into contact is going to hurt me at some point. That's just where my brain is. I really wish it wasn't, but that's just where it is.
highlights. Mental health can be defined by our emotional, psychological, and social well-being. It affects how we think, feel, and act.
You're telling me.
And it also impacts the way we handle stress, relate to others, and make conscious choices. Even though the terms are often used as synonyms, poor mental health and mental illness are not the same thing.
And that right there is what was really having me so unbelievably annoyed with Aaron Carter's tribute concert. It's like, yes, they were focused on mental health, but baby, they were making it seem as if like this man had a mental illness, which obviously he did. He was diagnosed with such. But was that something that you were trying to help when that was in fruition, you know, in the present day when he was alive? You didn't care. You didn't care. So it's just like, I don't know, sometimes I just feel like the whole mental illness and mental health situation on the outside, meaning the people who don't suffer from it, the people who don't know what it's like, when they see it from the outside looking in, it's like they see you just as a criminal and that's it. I mean, at least that's what the energy feels like. I don't know.
Someone diagnosed with mental illness can experience periods of physical, mental, and social well-being. At the same time, poor mental health can lead to mental illness, including health conditions such as anxiety and depression. In fact, the researchers note that more than 50% of Americans will be diagnosed with a mental illness or disorder at some point in their lifetime. In a given year, 1 in 5 U.S. adults will experience a mental illness.
Let's look at these numbers real quick. 2 or more, 35.8. Black and Asian, 17.3. More females than males. Whew, 18 to 25. Y'all are really feeling it, huh? 26 to 49. I mean, it's not that far off. 50 plus is lowest.
Similarly, 1 in 5 children, either currently or at some point during their life, have had a seriously debilitating mental illness, the study shows.
You telling me?
One of the main causes of mental distress in children and teenagers is their prolonged exposure to social media. The Pew Research Center estimates
I literally had to deactivate my Instagram. It was too much. I just was like, you know what? I need to get off of here. I need to stop creating content on my main channel. I just need to focus. You know what I mean? Like, and even today when I woke up this morning, I felt so good not having to like log in Instagram, you know? Like I just felt like better just kind of being away from it. But at the same time, I feel like the implementation of taking social media breaks is so important, especially when you can see that your health is diminishing, as I definitely could see. So I was like, I just need to hop off for a little bit, you know? Like, I need to figure out my own crap, get everything in line before I'm, you know, just out here willy-nilly acting like everything's okay. And I think a lot of people assume, you know, if you're on a platform or if you have followers or whatever. Like, there's just no way you could be going through that. And it's just like, why can't this be transparent? Like, you guys are killing me.
States that 72% of the U.S. population uses social media on a regular basis.
You telling me?
While social networking platforms allow people from all over the world to connect and to communicate, there are also downsides to social media, especially as it relates to mental health.
Make an impact.
And that right there is exactly why I tell people, take a break.
Unhealthy behaviors
I
linked
do
to
it.
social media use include comparing one's
You see that little boy with that big old camera? How much is that camera?
excessively to others
What?
and experiencing the fear of missing out. On top of that, many
FOMO.
studies have associated social media use with poorer performance at school and in daily activities.
No surprise there.
A systematic review published in the International Journal of Adolescence and Youth found that excessive time spent using social media could cause depression, anxiety, and psychological distress.
I was just talking to this guy about this at the bar. I was telling him, or we were just talking about like the economy. He's in finance, so we were just talking about finance, the economy, like where the world is going and stuff like that. And I was like, do you know about Common Core math or core common? I can't remember the terminology exactly, but anyways. And he was like, yes. And I was like, no, seriously, because I didn't know about it. I didn't know about it until I think like 3 weeks ago, you guys. Like, I didn't even know that was a thing. And I just immediately was like, what? Like, I can't even imagine that, especially when I was in school. I hated math. I would have been so happy if someone came in and said, nah, we're just going to do this little shortcut. Oh my God. Because man, I mean, I did like after school tutoring. I did summer school. I'm just not a math person, you know? And I think that's why I gravitate to those that are math people or numbers people, because that's just not me. Like, I wish, but only me and geometry were the ones that survived. You know what I mean? Everybody else, I broke up with. Me and long division, we damn near divorced. Okay? Please.
At this point, over 1 in 10 young Americans are experiencing depression that is severely impairing their ability to function at school or work, at home, with family, or in their social life.
That right there. Because it's like, and sometimes I'll find myself being like, oh, I need to message that person, and oh, I need to be like a good friend and like, you know, socialize and talk to people. And then I just end up being like, no, I'm going to wait until I feel better. Because I just hate bringing people like stuff that they can't, you know, fix, you know? Because I don't like when people do that to me, right? So I just don't like doing it to others. I don't know. And then sometimes I think like, dang, it's such a detriment to myself, you know? Not being able to like ask for help or accept help. Like that's so bad, right? But then there's other parts of me that's just like, dude, you really want to be that person? You really want to be that person to go rock their great day? You know, like I hate that, but it's just, it's so innate in me. I don't know.
Research highlights 17% of Americans aged 12 to 17 report suffering from at least one major depressive episode.
I was diagnosed with major depressive disorder, I believe at 17, 18 years old. So that's pretty accurate.
In the past year.
At least
and
in
over
my experience.
2.7 million teenagers are experiencing severe major.
And how weird is that? Because I was I was diagnosed with major depressive disorder first, and then I was diagnosed with severe major depression, and then I was diagnosed again, and they told me I was misdiagnosed, and then they diagnosed me with bipolar disorder 1. It's just so like, it's just labels everywhere. You know what I mean? I'm just like, okay, whatever. You know, like, what do I say?
Is escalating
What do I
so
do?
rapidly that in 2022, mental health.
But the people who hide like that they have depression, that like I feel like they are like another breed of human beings. I don't know. I feel they are so I could never hide it. And I felt like hiding it was so dumb. Like it just didn't make sense to me. for so many years, I just always felt like, no, I'd rather just kind of like let people know I'm depressed right now and just be in my own little bubble. You know what I mean? But at the same time, I think when I was younger, I was very much more like attention seeking because I felt like, why doesn't anyone care that I have this? You know what I mean? Whereas now it's just like, I want to inform people about it, you know, because especially high functioning. Because when people see me or even meet me for the first time, they would never think that I had any trauma or have any issue, you know what I mean? And it's really something that I feel like I have to be transparent about. I have to, because it's so bizarre to me that you don't realize how many of these people are walking among us.
Pennsylvania Senator John Fetterman checked himself into Walter Reed Medical Center to receive treatment for clinical depression.
In a statement, his chief of staff said that while the senator has experienced depression throughout his life, it only became severe in recent weeks.
Over 17 million U.S. Americans live with depression and or are diagnosed with it. Severe depression can impede or interfere with your daily life tasks. It can lead to symptoms of sadness, irritability. Many often have social isolation, and the treatment is relative to the person's needs. Sometimes it can involve psychotherapy, certain medications.
Health-related visits
crazy.
to emergency rooms jumped 31% among adolescents aged 12 to 17. The problem is reaching such alarming proportions that last year, Seattle's pump.
Okay, that's really interesting because I just saw a video, I think a couple hours ago, and they were talking about how this teenagers in Seattle are just like, the crime is out of the roof kind of situation. Like they're just doing really like criminal type acts, such as like stealing cars, robbery, stuff like that. So that's really interesting. Yeah, and that's why I'm just like, it's getting worse and we can see that the crime is getting worse, but yet let's not talk about mental health or mental illness. Let's talk about how like that person's lazy and they're a bum and pay your rent, pay your bills, get over yourself, blah, blah, blah. Instead of like, I don't know, maybe they were in some sort of harm, you know, that has made them then have these sort of actions. But it's the lack of empathy that I see amongst humans that I feel make people want to be closed in. At least that's just how I see it if I'm looking outside in. But when I think about it, my own experience, I think about it more so of just like protection of energy. I don't like to give out energy that is not good energy. If it's not good energy, I would rather stay in my bubble until that energy is away before I go dabbling into the world, you know? That's why I wanted, you know, to make sure that I focused on really creating more mental health content for this channel, because I kind of hate that I haven't done that. Like, I hate that I've kind of been straying away from that, because I think that expression would most likely help me in the long term, opposed to being silent, you know?
Lake Schools District has filed a lawsuit against multiple major social media companies, accusing them of harming young people's mental health. The lawsuit accused the social media companies behind TikTok.
And what's crazy is TikTok, meaning TikTok here, obviously, like, we're just on TikTok. But I believe in China or in other, I think it is China actually, they don't allow the kids there to be on TikTok. At least not for the extended period of time that we allow our kids in America to be on TikTok. So it's so interesting how, you know, we know that, obviously. I mean, that's public knowledge. I think any like American governmental official can see that and see the evidence of it, but yet we just like turn a blind eye to it, even though they created it. But it's like, oh, well, either way, you know, we're not going to put any, you know, restrictions or laws or anything against that. I don't know. I just feel like the more you neglect what children need, especially when it comes to like discipline and boundaries, we're just breeding more criminals. We're just breeding more like hate, more negative human beings that are not going to be contributors to society in a positive manner. I don't see how anyone else doesn't see it that way. It actually baffles me sometimes.
Facebook,
Speaking
Instagram,
of
and
it, I'm like,
Snapchat of creating
why is your 5-year-old on
mental
TikTok?
health crisis
What are you doing?
among America's youth.
I don't get it.
The defendants' growth is a product of choices they made to design and operate their platforms in ways that exploit the psychology and neurophysiology of their users into spending more and more time on their platforms.
That's true.
These techniques are particularly effective and harmful to the youth audience.
You know what's weird though is I find myself, at least when I'm looking back, I found myself more on TikTok when I was working opposed to when I wasn't working. Or like even today, for example, I haven't been on TikTok at all today. Like, I don't know what it is, but there's only certain pockets of time within the year that I'm on TikTok. But when I try to be on TikTok consecutively, it's not possible. It's just, I don't know what it is. At some point, I get to a point where I'm like, all right, this is literally consuming my entire day. Like, I have been on here. Like, and I think what it is I can tell that I'm not curating the content. Like sometimes I'll find myself like in a hole of content where I'm just like, yeah, that was funny, and like, yeah, that was cool, and like, oh, I love that song, and oh, look how great that food looks, whatever, right? But then I'll be like, man, I really wish I was, I don't know, listening to an audiobook on YouTube. You know what I mean? Like just something more like curated to something that I know is beneficial for my brain, opposed to, TikTok's just like insane algorithm, you know what I mean, that just gets you like literally dopamine hit after dopamine hit. But I think the level of critical thinking that I don't see in the world is what stops me. And I'm like, wait, I need to hop off of this. Like, I need to realize, like, this is all curated and marketed to keep me on here. Whereas I don't need to be a consumer. I need to be a producer. And I have the critical thinking skills to make that happen. So I'll have to stop myself. Like, and even me as an adult doing that, I can't imagine a kid. Like, maybe a kid might think about it, but, at the same time, it's like their friend messages them and like, oh my God, did you see the new trend on TikTok? And then before you know it, it's like, okay, maybe I shouldn't be critical thinking right now. Like, I want my friends and I want to have a good, like, high school life. Like, I don't know. Not the best priorities there, but you know what I'm saying.
91-page suit said, defendants have successfully exploited the vulnerable brains of youth, hooking tens of millions of students across the country into positive feedback loops of excessive use and abuse of defendant social media platforms.
It would be a really cool invention if somebody could curate an algorithm for all social media platforms to kind of curate your child's content into like things that they have already experienced like within school. So let's say maybe they're learning like a chapter about something in history, and when they get on TikTok, there has to be like one TikTok that like sparks their brain into that curated like educational content. That would be a really cool platform. I'm not that tech savvy to be doing stuff like that, but I think that would be a really cool idea for those parents that do pay for their kids to go to private schools, for example, to be able to implement within their child's iPhone, for example. That would be pretty dope, but again, it has to be very insidious. It can't be like, the kid feels like they're being, kind of like, oh, you don't get to see everything. Like, it needs to be like seamless to where they don't even notice it. If anything, it's just like a benefit resource for those kids. Like, I don't know. I think that'd be a cool idea.
Added, citing controversial content, including extreme diet plans and encouragements of plastic surgery in children and teens.
Ain't that the truth?
Exposed the company's
alleged the fact that they even have baby Botox for like 16-year-olds and 15-year-olds is beyond me.
Conduct and the rising rates of anxiety, depression, dysphoria, and body dysmorphia among young people.
Can you imagine?
According to the lawsuit, from 2009 to 2019, there was on average a 30% increase in the number of students at Seattle Public.
Over the past 6 months.
There goes Seattle again. I'm telling you, that's so crazy that I'm just not seeing that. Like the correlation.
So sad or hopeless almost every day for 2 weeks or more in a row that they stopped doing some usual activities.
Hey, been there.
As students struggle with various mental health issues, their performance in schools drops, the lawsuit added, which makes them less likely to attend school and more likely to engage in substance use and to act out.
You know what's crazy? I feel like even looking back for myself, yeah, there were times where I definitely was not like in class. I was like, yeah, I'm about to go hang out with the seniors, whatever it was, right? But one thing about me, and I don't know if this is maybe it's a foreigner thing. I don't know. Maybe it's a Nigerian African thing, but I was very serious about my grades. Like even like when I got a C, it just hurt. Like and the thing is, if I got a C, it had to be like a 79 or a 78. If it was a low C, yo, you might as well just fail me. You might as well just fail me. Like I was one of those people that very much like took pride in having like an AB honor roll. Like I remember they wanted me to join some sort of society or whatever, but at this time I was so very much broken, like spiritually and emotionally, that it was just like, why would you think that I'm even worth going to college? Like I was that depressed and that down, but I think it was just so ignored because at that time people didn't care about stuff like that.
In turn, hindering
It's
America's
so weird.
public
Like I look
schools'
back, I'm
ability
like, damn, if somebody
to
was there to
fulfill
get me out of
their
that hole, I
education
could have like had a
Meanwhile,
PhD by now. Like
CNN
what the
and
heck?
KFF poll also
Crazy.
revealed that over 53 million adults say they're currently dealing with a severe mental health issue, with about half of them reporting that their family members suffer
18
from
to
similar
29,
problems as
63%.
well. The study's findings indicate that more than 1 in 5 adults describe their own mental health as only fair or poor,
30 to
including
49,
extra large
75%.
shares of adults under the age of 30 whose annual income is less than $40,000. Some of the most cited sources
That's
of
interesting that the non-LGBTQ is higher.
stress include personal finances, with 56% of the respondents mentioning worsening financial insecurity. Over a third, or 34%, cite political conflicts, while 1 in 4 identified personal relationships and work, respectively, as major sources of mental distress. At the same time, 35% said they felt anxious always or often over the course of the past 12 months, while about 1 in 5 adults said they were often always depressed or lonely over the past year too. According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, loneliness is related to a host of both physical and mental conditions. While the pandemic temporarily exacerbated isolation, other long-term societal trends are also contributing.
And it's like when you're lonely, the first thing you think is like, okay, let me just hop on an app real quick. You know what I mean? And if I'm thinking that, at least I'm sure kids do.
Making Americans feel
Instead of
lonely,
like, let's
such
go
as decreased
outside.
community involvement and fewer people getting married and having children.
I don't know.
Moreover, seniors
Let's go
are at
hang
increased
out.
risk for loneliness, as they're more likely to face challenges such as living alone, losing loved ones, and coping with chronic illness. The
Facts.
CDC notes.
I've been
Although
living
we're
alone
talking about
so long,
mental health
like,
more than at
so
any
long.
other period in history, getting psychological and psychiatric care can be difficult and still be a stigma in many communities. Despite increased willingness and commonly shared stresses among the public, most adults who have only fair or poor mental health said they don't feel comfortable talking to loved ones about it.
Bingo.
Some to maintain privacy, some to avoid the shame and stigma attached to mental health issues.
And that is me right there. And it's just like, sometimes it's just like, it's not about you. As much as I love you, as much as I do, I don't feel like bringing this into your world because it's just not something you're going to be able to solve. As much as you want to be that person, that supportive, sometimes it's just like, I'd rather just come and talk to you when I'm better. You know, I don't know when that's going to be, but damn it, let me try before you try to come in and force what is very much not forcible. I think that's like one of the other things that really sucks when it comes to mental health and mental illness is like, it's just not something you can force.
The researchers wrote.
You just
Only 20%
can't.
of those who reported
much as
experiencing
you want
anxiety and
to.
depression in the past year have sought medical care and treatment. The
Not gonna
CDC
happen.
says that every year since 2011, the percentage of people with a mental illness who report an unmet need for treatment has increased. Additionally, more than half of adults with a mental illness do not receive treatment.
No.
For those who have gone without help, the most commonly cited reasons were being too busy or unable to take time off work, being unable to afford the cost of medical care, and being afraid or embarrassed to seek care, according to the CNN and KFF survey. The study detailed that most Americans see those issues as significant problems. A majority, 55%, say it's a big problem, that there aren't enough mental health care providers. About 75% say that insurers not covering mental health
Lack of
the way they do
diversity.
physical health is a significant concern.
Huge.
And 80% say the same about the cost of mental health care.
It's expensive.
Right now, over 17%
Oh,
of
in
adults
America,
and young
it's
Americans
expensive.
with mental health problems and illnesses are uninsured. Further, the National Alliance on Mental Illness, NAMI, unveiled that over 25 million rural Americans live in areas where there is a shortage of mental health professionals, meaning that even if they have the means to talk to a professional, there might not be one available. So while people may have insurance that covers mental health services, if those services are unavailable, it kind of cancels out the benefits of having insurance.
I have 1 minute left on my battery, so if it ends and you made it all the way, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. But if it doesn't end, then hey, we're still going.
With all that said,
I'm like 1 minute on the battery, 2 minutes in the video.
Year after year.
What are we going to do here?
Americans of all ages have been coping with increased pressure and a faster way of living. The fact that medical assistance is inaccessible for millions of people that truly need it only aggravates people's personal mental health issues and makes illnesses persist for longer than they would if patients were getting proper treatment. A separate survey conducted by Gallup has uncovered that the state of America's mental and emotional well-being is actually at the lowest point since the firm began tracking this data in 2001. The nation's collective mental health is currently worse than in any other year since the survey began, Gallup reported. Those who take the survey rate their own mental or emotional well-being as excellent, good, fair, or poor. From 2001 to 2021, the reading for those who chose excellent or good ranged from 71% to 79%.
If you've never heard of
I was looking at that damn graph so hard, I didn't even think an ad was going to pop up.
In November 2022, it was just 56%. Conversely, the latest fair and poor ratings are 12 points higher than Gallup has recorded in any previous year. Mental health problems are not only triggered by the content people consume in the virtual world, but also by what's going on in their surroundings. With economic conditions deteriorating, many major companies cutting tens of thousands of jobs. The feeling of uncertainty is gripping millions of Americans. From January to December 2022, work-related stress and anxiety jumped nearly 30%, according to Headspace, with over 1/3 of workers contemplating leaving their job due to mental health issues, while 53% are facing some type of burnout. Return to office policies are among the most common reasons behind mental health struggles today.
I would never.
It's a confluence of issues, Headspace Health CEO Russell Glass explains. You've got the global recession. There's uncertainty about people's finances. There's worry about being laid off. There's no certainty about, am I going to have a job 6 months from now?
There's no certainty anywhere.
Am I going to get paid while I was getting paid? Inflation is rampant. All of these factors affect mental health. And we know that workers have a job 6 months from now.
There's no certainty anywhere.
Am I going to get paid?
In the lot, 12 for a SWAT, busting all the bells out the box, hit the lick with the box.